Hi, welcome to another video. So, Prime Intellect has just released something called Prime Agent, and this one is actually quite interesting. It's an open-source, self-improving coding agent that runs in your terminal, kind of like Claude Code or Codex, but it's built on a completely different architecture that they call an RLM, or Recursive Language Model. And the wild part is that on the ARK AGI 3 benchmark, it scored 95.5%, which actually beats the human expert baseline of 95.4%. That's not a typo. An open source harness is now scoring above human experts on this benchmark. It's fully open source under the MIT license. You can use it with your existing Claude or ChatGPT subscriptions. And it can also run with open models like GLM through API keys or even locally. So this is pretty amazing, to be honest. Now, let's talk about what it actually is and how you can use it too. So Prime Agent is a general-purpose coding and research agent from Prime Intellect, the same team that works on decentralized training and the open superintelligence stack. On the surface, it looks like any other terminal coding agent. You install it, you open it in your project folder, and you tell it what to do. But under the hood, it works very differently from Claude Code or Codex. The first big idea is the Recursive Language Model, or RLM. In a normal coding agent, the model calls tools one by one, and every tool result gets dumped into the context window. That's why these agents burn through tokens so fast and start degrading on long tasks. Prime Agent, instead, gives the model a persistent IPython kernel, which is basically a live Python session that stays alive for the whole conversation. The model treats its own context as a variable and treats tools and subagents as function calls inside that Python session. What this means in practice is that instead of reading a huge file into context, the model can just write a bit of Python that processes the file and only pulls out what it needs. Instead of spamming tool calls, it writes code that runs functions over data programmatically. Prime Intellect claims this saves a ton of tokens, and their charts show Prime Agent hitting higher scores at lower token costs than the competing harnesses. As someone who watches these agents eat through usage limits every day, this is the kind of efficiency I like to see. Subagents work the same way. The model can call an RLM function inside the REPL to spawn a child agent, and that child is a full Prime Agent instance with its own model and its own session history. The parent gets the result back as a return value, like a normal function call. So you can have agents spawning agents recursively running work in parallel or in the background without everything flooding into one context window. It's kind of awesome. The second big idea is what they call the Continual Harness. This is the self-improving part. In most agents, the system prompt, the skills, and the memory are all static things that the developers hand-engineered. In Prime Agent, the harness itself is treated as state that the agent can create, read, update, and delete. Supplemental prompts, memories, skill descriptions, and subagent specifications are all stored as durable state. There's a /refine command that reviews your recent trajectory and applies small, evidence-backed updates to this state. So if the agent messed something up and you corrected it, running /refine will bake that lesson into the harness so it doesn't repeat the mistake. The base system prompt stays immutable and every change is snapshotted so you can roll back if a refinement makes things worse. Basically, the agent gets better at working in your codebase the more you use it. This is quite great to see because it's the direction I think all of these agents are eventually headed. On top of that, it has a proper skills system. Recurring workflows become actual executable Python packages, not just markdown instruction files. And there's a built-in skill creator that packages them for either the current project or your personal setup. It's also built for long-running and autonomous work. There's a /goal command to set persistent objectives that survive across turns and compactions. There's a /heartbeat command that makes the agent wake up periodically. And there's a /autonomous mode where it runs on its own within turn, token, and time budgets that you configure with quality gates that you define. Sessions are daemon-backed, which means if you close your terminal or your SSH connection drops, the agent keeps running in the background. You can run Prime-Agent, agents to see all your running and saved sessions, and Prime-Agent attached to reconnect to any of them. Running agents can even message each other directly and coordinate without going through you. So there's a lot packed in here. Now, let's quickly talk about those benchmarks, because the numbers are honestly the headline. On ARC AGI 3, Prime Agent running Claude Opus 5 scored 95.5% best at 1, above the human expert baseline of 95.5%, and with best at 3, it solved 99.97% across all 183 levels. And they say the gains are not benchmark specific. On long context benchmarks like Ollama and Longbench Pro, it matched or beat Claude Code and Codex, both with proprietary models and with open weight models like GLM 5.2. They even had it build working Sega Genesis and Game Boy Color emulators from specification on their emulator bench test. Now, these are their own reported numbers, so take it with a grain of salt until more people test it independently. Installation is dead simple. It works on Mac OS and Linux, and you just run their one-line install command, which is a curl command piped into shell. I'll put it in the description. It downloads a version release, verifies the checksum, installs the prime-agent command, and sets up the IPython runtime for you. Once that's done, just go to your project directory in the terminal and run prime-agent. On first launch, you run the /login command to authenticate. And this is where it gets really flexible. You can log in with your existing ChatGPT Plus or Pro subscription, your Claude Pro or Max subscription, or even GitHub Copilot via OAuth. So if you're already paying for one of these, you don't need to spend anything extra. If you'd rather use API keys, it supports over 20 providers, including Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Gemini, Grok, XAI, and OpenRouter. You just set your key as an environment variable or drop it in the auth.json file. And if you want to go fully local and free, you can point it at Ollama, LM Studio, or vLLM through the models.json config. This is a really good option for sure, especially for students watching this channel who want to run open models without paying for anything. One important thing to note before you go wild with it: Prime Agent executes model-generated Python and shell commands with your user permissions. The worker and kernel processes add some isolation, but they clearly state it is not a security sandbox. So don't run it on untrusted repos, review what it's doing, and if you're doing anything sketchy, run it inside a container or a VM. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so let me show you a quick demo. I have Prime Agent open in a test project here. Right away, you can see it's working differently from other agents. Instead of firing off a bunch of separate tool calls, it's writing Python in its REPL to explore the project. It greps through the files programmatically, pulls just the relevant snippets into context, and starts reasoning. It also goes ahead and runs a ton of commands, but the context stays lean because it's processing everything as variables instead of dumping raw output into the chat. It spawns a subagent using the RLM call to handle the test files in parallel while the main agent works on the fix itself. Both are doing their own thing, and the parent just gets the results back like function returns. Once it's done, it runs the tests, everything passes, and we're good. And now if I run /refine, it looks back at the trajectory, notices a correction I made about the project's code style, and saves that as a small update to the harness state. Next session, it just knows. Chef's kiss. Really good stuff. So what's my verdict? I think this is one of the more interesting agent releases in a while. Most new coding agents these days are just wrappers with a different coat of paint, but this one actually rethinks the architecture. The RLM approach genuinely addresses the token bloat problem. The self-improving harness is something I've wanted from these tools for ages, and it's all MIT licensed, works with subscriptions you already have, and supports open models. Prime Intellect also credits the PI project that it builds on, which is nice to see. On the downside, it's brand new, so expect rough edges. The benchmark numbers are self-reported for now. There's no Windows support mentioned outside of using Linux through WSL, and the lack of a sandbox means you need to be a bit careful with it. It's not perfect, but the upsides make it super worth trying, especially since it costs you nothing if you already have a Claude or ChatGPT subscription. I'll be testing it more over the next few days, and if you want a full benchmark video of Prime Agent against Claude Code and Codex on the same tasks, let me know in the comments. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.